In his room at Steel Armor Shelter, Hansen felt a strong headache as he looked at Zero, who was sitting opposite him. Back to the day when they were in the cave, Zero insisted on following him in silence. She would walk as Hansen did and stop when he stopped. Hansen even tried to run away on the back of the Golden Growler during the middle of the night while she was sleeping. However, after riding the Golden Growler non-stop for more than half a day, as he started to cook lunch, Zero was already waiting next to his pot with her eyes wide. She would go wherever Hansen went like a tag-along. She did not seem to be completely dumb. At least when Hansen went to the bathroom, Zero would not follow him. In the end, Hansen had to take her back to his room in Steel Armor Shelter and watch her with a headache. He had found out nothing about her. As they were eating, Hansen asked Zero, who was filling her mouth with food, "So, why did you choose to follow me?" Surprisingly, Zero put down the bowl in her hand and stood up. Then Hansen saw her unbutton her blouse and pull it down. "Don't. I'm not that kind of person. You think you can tempt me with your beauty. I'm telling you there is no way you could achieve that. I am a..." Hansen covered his eyes with both hands and said, while peeking through his fingers. Zero had already pulled her blouse down. She was wearing nothing underneath. However, she had already turned her back to Hansen. Hansen suddenly widened his eyes. On the gorgeous and flawless back of Zero, Hansen saw a tattoo, a red tattoo. The tattoo was the shape of a beast which looked like a cat or fox. Zero pulled her blouse back to cover her nude body up, walked to Hansen, and reached her hand toward Hansen's chest. "What are you doing?" Hansen was startled, trying to jump back. However, Zero was too fast. She immediately reached into Hansen's collar and pulled the 9-life cat pendant Hansen was wearing. She then released it and stepped back, pointing at the pendant. "You're saying you followed me because of this pendant. What do you have to do with it?" Hansen looked at Zero incredulously. Zero did not talk to Hansen again but sat back to eat, as if he had heard nothing. Hansen strongly suspected that Zero was not dumb at all. Hansen had never managed to get any information that she did not want to share. What's the relationship between her and Han Jingjai? Hansen looked at the 9-life cat dependent with complex emotions. However, Hansen felt like there was no way for Zero to be connected to Han Jingjai. Han Jingjai was someone who lived centuries ago, while Zero was so young. The connection was simply impossible. "I'm leaving now. You can stay here or teleport back yourself." Hansen used the teleport device in his room and teleported back to the teleport station. For several days, Hansen wandered around in Devil Desert, but found no sacred blood creature at all. After he finished eating the life essence, he eventually had 99 super Geno points, 1 point from maxing out. What back luck. However, Zero was following him quietly like a shadow. Hansen saw a mountain from afar which looked like a volcano covered with white snow on top. It was exactly the mountain where he had seen the phoenix-like creature. Hansen became overjoyed. As long as he killed the creature, he would be able to gain the last super Geno point that he was missing and evolve. At that time, he could get rid of the horrendous time bomb, Zero. The Golden Rock Worm King and Super Pet Armor were almost destroyed by Zero. Currently, they were restoring in Hansen's mind and could not be used in a short amount of time. Hansen quickly summoned the Holy Angel and sent her to probe on the mountain. Hansen still had a lot of reservations about the Firebird and did not want to take the risks himself. The Holy Angel flapped her wings and went to the top of that mountain. She suddenly heard a shrill bird song from the mountaintop as she approached. The Firebird tweeted and came after the Holy Angel. The girl and the bird started to fight in the air. The Holy Angel kept dodging the attacks from the Firebird, unwilling to catch on the flames. On the other hand, the Firebird was also being very cautious, unwilling to show any weakness in front of the Holy Angel. Although the fight seemed to be rather fierce, the two did not exchange too many movements. Hansen saw that even the Holy Angel was afraid of the flames of the Firebird and did not dare to take the risks himself. Hansen shot a glance at Zero, who was standing next to him, and felt quite upset. After seeing Zero, Hansen's eyes suddenly lit up. He thought, "I wonder if you would help me if I ask her to kill the Firebird. She is not interested in the life essence anyway, so I don't need to worry about her keeping the life essence for herself." Zero, can you do me a favor?" Hansen cleared his throat and asked. Zero did not even look at Hansen. She suddenly jumped up and reached the mountain in just a few moves. With a long jump, she reached out a hand and grabbed at the Firebird that was fighting the Holy Angel. After Zero threw herself at the Firebird like a cannonball, she went through the burning body of the Firebird and appeared on the other side, landing heavily on the mountain's feet and even broke a part of the mountain. In Zero's hand, there was a red and golden spirit wiggling like flames. The Firebird quickly issued a scream as its body made up of flames simply exploded and turned into fireworks. Zero jumped back to Hansen and threw the spirit at him without saying anything. She then stood next to Hansen like she always did. Thank you so much. Hansen flushed. He never treated Zero well, while Zero finished what he was trying to accomplish for a long time, which embarrassed him a bit. Hansen quickly summoned the cursed wolf daggers and slashed it at the spirit. Super creature desert bird killed. Beast soul of desert bird gained. Life essence available. Meat inedible. He caught a red and gold crystal the size of a bullet in his hand and threw it in his mouth without hesitation. Although it was kind of a waste, he had no use of the life essence even if he saved it for later. There was no way he could sell it to someone else either. Therefore, Hansen simply ate the whole thing. Life essence of desert bird consumed. 1 super geno point gained. Super geno points maxed out. Hansen realized that he had finally maxed out on his super geno points, even earlier than he maxed out on sacred geno points. Hansen looked to his mind with joy and saw his newly gained super beast soul. Type of beast soul of super creature desert bird, aura. Hansen almost laughed out loud. It was a beast soul aura, which was very rare. Hansen had felt the effect of Flame Lieutenant was somewhat lacking. Having gained a super beast soul aura, he had something to replace it with. In the central office of the special squad, Zhang Zhenhong was handling some urgent files when he heard a knock on the door. Jiang Sheng, if it is not important, don't disturb me today, Zhang Zhenhong said after seeing it was his assistant Jiang Sheng. Director, the head of a special squad submitted a beast soul trade application. Jiang Sheng said with a complex expression. Don't bother me with this kind of thing. Ask him to do it on the internal platform by the rules. Do I need to teach you that? Zhang Zhenhong was quite upset that Jiang Sheng would bother him with such trivial matter and said harshly. The head of that special squad wanted to trade for a quota of protection for his family member. Jiang Sheng knew Zhang Zhenhong's temper quite well and understood he was under a lot of pressure, so Jiang Sheng was not upset. Director, that person did not want protection at the moment, but a few years later. Nonsense. Why would he apply for something coming into effect in a few years? Is he trying to add to our workload? Zhang Zhenhong thumped the desk in madness. Director, I think you should probably first look at the list of beast souls he submitted. Jiang Sheng placed a document in front of Zhang Zhenhong. What is there to look at? Initially, Zhang Zhenhong was quite annoyed. However, after glancing at the list, he swallowed his words back and widened his eyes. Currently, Hansen had 7 super beast souls in total. They were Water Reaper, Cursed Wolf, Golden Growler, Golden Rockworm King, Holy Angel, and Desert Bird. The sacred blood beast souls would not be that useful in Second God's Sanctuary, so Hansen traded most of them away, only keeping Beetle Knight, Fairy Queen, and Meowth. Initially, Hansen also wanted to keep Purple Feathered Dragon and Color Shifter. However, after looking through the information about Second God's Sanctuary, Hansen found that there were a lot of flying creatures in Second God's Sanctuary, many of which had much higher speed than the wings he had currently. Therefore, the sacred blood wings were not that valuable anymore. In addition, he had 2 super pets which could both fly. He could totally do without the beast soul wings. Color Shifter was not that useful in Second God's Sanctuary either. If he was to hide himself, changing the color alone was no longer enough in Second God's Sanctuary, where there were many creatures that had very strong sense of smell and perception. They could probably sense his body temperature. In the end, Hansen gave up the Color Shifter as well. Keeping Meowth was simply for sentimental reasons. He had really considered Meowth as his own pet. Hansen walked out of his room and entered the Evolution Palace and Steel Armor Shelter. In the Evolution Palace that looked like an ancient temple, a mysterious statue of Beast Head was guarding the pool from each corner, spouting liquid that was almost transparent from their mouths. Without hesitation, Hansen took off all of his clothes and walked into the pool, immersing his body in the lukewarm liquid in the evolution pool. In the liquid, Hansen felt he had become an embryo. He felt like an unborn baby, all of his body cells developing joyfully, bringing him to a rebirth. The feeling was hard to describe. There was no heat or coldness, and no stimulations. The growth was so natural that it felt a part of his own growth. It felt like puberty again, but it was not a real puberty. The growth was inside out. In the liquid, he did not feel suffocated at all, but extremely comfortable. Hansen felt like he was a sacred soul that had reborn with all his sins purified. The feeling was so wonderful that Hansen almost moaned out loud. No wonder so many people are pursuing evolution of the body. The feeling of evolution is magnificent. It is almost like a rebirth, making the old body shine with youth again. Han-sen thought. However, he knew it was not finished yet. He had to wait until he heard the voice, which would tell him this evolution was successful. In addition, Han-sen wanted to enjoy this fantastic feeling for a while longer. It was as good as having sex with the woman he loved, but it was a completely different feeling. It was more like a person who had been sick for a long time was suddenly cured. All the pains and sickness went away in a moment. The cleanse was so thorough that one might even cry. Han-sen did not cry, but he totally enjoyed it. Evolution successful. Status of Evolver gained. 100 years added to lifespan. Super body King Spirit gained. Han-sen was dumbstruck by the two words King Spirit. There were many evolvers among humans. In fact, the majority of humans were evolvers. Unevolved persons were usually between 16 and 30 years old, while the majority of humans between 20 to 300 years old were evolvers. Most people would stay in this status their whole life, and only a few could become surpasser. It was not because average evolvers could not gain 100 Geno points, but because Third God's Sanctuary was too dangerous. After returning to his room, Han-sen held the black crystal in his hand. After a long while, he gritted his teeth and put the black crystal into his mouth. He swallowed the black crystal as if he had swallowed an ordinary stone. There was no heat or coolness or swelling. It was almost like the black crystal had no use at all. Han-sen did not dare to be careless. There were many radioactive minerals in the universe that might affect the functions of one's body in the long run. One might get severely sick or even die. Han-sen took a deep breath and looked around in the room, making sure that he had nothing left except for Zero. Han-sen smiled to Zero, who was regarding him with wide eyes, and teleported out of steel armor shelter. Zero followed Han-sen out, but Han-sen paid her no mind. He ran to the self-service scanner at the teleport station, swiped the card for a scan, and then scanned his own body. After seeing the holographic image in the scanner, Han-sen was dazed. He scanned a couple times more and the result was the same. There was no black crystal in his body. Han-sen looked to his mind and saw the Cursed Wolf, Golden Growler, Holy Angel, and other super beast souls were sitting in a circle, staring at one thing greedily with fierce looks. Meowth and Beetle Knight were standing afar, clearly coveting the item as well. However, they were afraid of the 7 super beast souls and did not dare to come any closer. Han-sen's eyes fell on the item in the center of the super beast souls and became overjoyed. The black crystal which he failed to find in his own body had somehow entered his mind and hovering there. What the beast souls were eyeing was exactly the black crystal. How did this end up in my mind? Can I still take it out? Han-sen focused his mind on the black crystal, but it did not move at all. Obviously, it was not like a beast soul which would respond to Han-sen's thought. Han-sen looked around and found that he had sold most of his beast souls, except for the super beast souls, Meowth, and Beetle Knight, as well as a few primitive beast souls that he did not manage to sell. Those primitive beast souls were shivering far away from the crystal, unable to bear the horrendous aura of the super beast souls. If they could, they probably would have wet themselves already. As the copper beast was walking toward the black crystal in fear, a figure suddenly moved on its own, grabbing the black crystal before the primitive beast. It was the Holy Angel. Han-sen frowned. Ever since the Holy Angel swallowed the meat of the Golden Growler, she became somewhat different. Sometimes she would act voluntarily, although it was still within certain boundaries. Han-sen initially wanted to order the Holy Angel to let go of the black crystal but hesitated as the Holy Angel looked at him expectantly with puppy eyes, yearning for the black crystal. Thinking of the fact that the Holy Angel could further evolve, Han-sen decided to let her have it. Since she wanted it so much, it should not be harmful to her. With Han-sen's order, Holy Angel became overjoyed and swallowed the black crystal in her hand. After the Holy Angel swallowed the black crystal, she suddenly huddled up, her body glistening with holy aura as if she were in heaven. The aura quickly turned into a gigantic cocoon of light, hugging the Holy Angel, and then everything became calm again. The cocoon of light was hovering in Han-sen's mind, throbbing with a special rhythm of life. All the other beast souls became disappointed and scattered. The most disappointed among them was the copper-toothed beast. Han-sen looked at the cocoon of light, which did not seem to be changing anymore. Han-sen decided not to pay attention to his mind for a while. I wonder what the Holy Angel would become after another evolution. Han-sen felt expectant and excited. After going out of the scanning device, Han-sen looked at Zero, who was waiting for him outside, and thought, "This time I enter God's Sanctuary again, I will appear in second God's Sanctuary, so there would be no way for you to follow me anymore." In order to get rid of Zero, Han-sen directly walked toward the teleport device, took a deep breath, and chose to teleport. This was his first time to enter second God's Sanctuary, so the location he would be teleported to was random. Han Sen was praying that he would be sent to somewhere ruled by humans, which would be much more conducive to his cultivation. If unfortunately, he was sent to a place where there were all creatures with no human, or where there was a large spirit shelter, it would be difficult for him to even survive. After a temporary lightheadedness, Han Sen was no longer in the teleport device. What he saw was a huge ice cave. The ice around him was as tough as glass, probably having been frozen for centuries. Ice cones and columns were hanging from the ceiling of the ice cave. There was nothing but coldness, except for the teleport device under Han Sen's feet. What is this damned place? Han Sen looked around and only saw one hole leading to the outside. Han Sen still had hope and wanted to crawl out of the hole to have a look. Before Han Sen acted, he suddenly saw a blur in the teleport device, and someone else appeared there. No, it is impossible that she's an evolver. How can she end up here? Even if she was an evolver, it is highly unlikely for her to end up at the same spot as me. The chance is so slim and there must be something wrong. Han Sen was lost, gazing at Zero. Han Sen believed there were only two possibilities. One was that Zero was abnormal. The other was that his 9-life cat pendant was problematic. On the top of the largest mountain, he could see a white fairytale-like castle vaguely through the flying snowflakes. Han Sen's face suddenly became grim. Spirit shelter. Han Sen suddenly had an idea, which was not good news to him. Since Han Sen had not spotted a human building but saw a spirit shelter, it was unlikely for him to meet any fellow man. Judging from the looks of the castle, it was probably owned by advanced spirits. If the spirits were too strong and had a large troop of creatures, Han Sen believed he would suffer in his early development. "Why are you standing there?" A hasty but low voice sounded from Han Sen's back. Han Sen turned to look and saw a man with his full body covered in Arctic suit waving at them from the depths of the hole. Han Sen suddenly felt a bit pleased to finally see a human. He took Zero to walk over to the guy. When he was ready to speak, the guy suddenly pulled them inside the ice channel. "Let's go. Let's talk inside so that we don't alarm the ice-armored beasts. They have sensitive ears and could hear a voice 1,000 feet away in snowstorm. My name is Zuyu, and I came here more than a year ago, so I have more experience than you. Here's a piece of advice: do not wander around. This damn place is hell. Whoever sent here are just down in luck. This place faces the ocean in 3 directions. Only the direction of the spirit shelter leads to land. Besides, we don't even know where we are. Even if we bypass the spirit shelter, it would be hard for us to locate a human shelter. We would be more than likely to die on the way. Wait here for a couple of days. When more people arrived, we would be able to go farther to hunt. People here are nice, so as long as you do your part, the meat would be shared to you. So stay and gain some Geno points. Know this place better and then consider hunting on your own. Thank you so much for the instructions, friend." Han Sen thanked Zuyu for being so straightforward. "Call me Zuyu." Zuyu smiled and said. After going back to the ice cave, Han Sen chatted some more with Zuyu and got the basic idea about the place. Then he teleported back to the Alliance together with Zero. Han Sen decided to get certified as a sacred blood aristocrat. In addition to all the benefits he could get, he would be able to let his sister continue her study at the posh school with confidence. Before taking Zero home, Han Sen took her to the testing hall. He planned to do a simple strength test himself and ask Zero to take the test to determine how strong she was. It was easy to do a strength test. If one punched at the device as hard as one could for 3 to 5 times, the device would come up with an accurate average of one's strength score. Han Sen picked an empty room, pointed at the device and said to Zero, "Hit it with all you got." Zero followed instructions as always, walked to the device, raised her tender fist, and hit the target hard. Han Sen quickly looked to the numbers, 97.0472, which was lower than what Han Sen had thought. He thought Zero's fitness should be over 100, while it was less than 100. Han Sen asked Zero to give it a few more shots, and the number was lower than the first one. The second shot showed 96.8964, and the rest were between the two numbers. Han Sen walked to the device himself and hit it hard. When he looked at the number, it kept go up and the stayed 70.0006, which made Han Sen quite pleased. This was his maximum estimate. He then made a few more punches and found that there was almost no variation between the numbers, with the largest difference being 0.0002. Han Sen hesitated and summoned the Fairy Queen to shapeshift. Then he used Heresy Mantra and Overload to hit the target with all he got. Boom. With a huge sound, the number kept flipping up and ended at 81.6735, which made Han Sen overjoyed. Han Sen's number was not that far from Zero's. Although there was still a difference of a dozen points, Han Sen had already got the ability to fight her. Even if she suddenly went mad, Han Sen still could handle it to some extent. Furthermore, he had become an evolver, which meant not only his fitness was enhanced greatly, his potentials were also increased. He took Zero back to his home, which was not the old house of his family, but a 3-bedroom penthouse Han-sen bought himself. Originally, he planned to use it with his girlfriend, but it turned out to be vacant. A few days back, Han-sen regretted that he had bought this penthouse. Currently, it became handy to accommodate Zero. "Can you stay here alone? Call me with comlink if you need anything." Han-sen taught her how to use the comlink and regarded her, fearing that she might insist on following him. He was about to report to Daphne, and she could not appear in the military. "Okay," Zero replied and nodded. "Does it count as keeping a mistress?" Han-sen touched his chin and thought to himself. Considering that Zero looked only about 15 years old, not even an adult yet, Han-sen felt his thought was too evil. He shook his head and dismissed the thought. The next morning, Han-sen left to get certified as a sacred blood aristocrat, which was the last important matter he needed to tend to before serving. It was very crowded in the certification bureau. All the service windows had long lines in front of them, but the majority of the people were there for the certification as mutant evolvers and primitive evolvers. Although the mutant evolvers also had the status of aristocrat, their status was significantly lower than sacred blood aristocrats. Men were doing better and better in First God's Sanctuary, and more people were able to kill a super creature. However, those who could max out on sacred geno points were still quite limited. It so happened that the young man in the line next to them had also come to the window. He walked up, raised his voice on, and said to the staff, "I am here to be certified as a mutant evolver." After that, the young man glanced at Han-sen provocatively, as if he were saying, "I am a mutant evolver and what are you?" Han-sen did not even bother to say anything. He simply walked to the window, handed in his identification card and whispered to the staff, "Would you please handle my request to be certified as a sacred blood evolver?" Although Han-sen's voice was low, the young man quickly changed his expression. People around them also looked to Han-sen in surprise. The staff member who had been working long hours also raised his eyes and checked Han-sen out. A sacred blood evolver was still quite rare at this point. On a small planet such as Raka, 3 to 5 sacred blood evolvers per year would be considered a significant number already. 20 years old, graduate of Blackhawk Military Academy, and a major. As he said that, the young man and others were in doubt looked at Han-sen in a much different way. Blackhawk Military Academy was a top school in the eyes of ordinary people. A graduate of Blackhawk was undoubtedly the elite among the elite. The face of the young man turned purple. He wished he could hide in a hole somewhere. Everyone else looked at Han-sen with admiration, and girls and women even started to wink at Han-sen. This is the true elite of the Alliance, a sacred blood aristocrat of 20 years old. So handsome. I wonder if he has a girlfriend. I wish to marry him. I don't mind if I only have one night with him. I wonder how much it would cost to sleep with him for a night. A few days later, in a spaceship, Han-sen was reading materials of ancient languages using his comlink. He should report to Daphne, but the location for reporting was in a remote galaxy called Dongyan. It was already the periphery of the Alliance. If people went beyond Dongyan, there was no Shura but many undeveloped galaxies. Han-sen did not know what Daphne's mission was to be located so far away. However, Han-sen had smelled trouble. If the warships were serving in some special regions, the traffic would become an obstacle for him to return home. Many people serving special missions would not even return home once during the entire service. It had been a long time since he last logged in Gladiator. Han-sen first checked his friend list, wishing to see Queen there. He had improved significantly in fitness, so maybe he would last longer with her. Unfortunately, Queen's name was grayed out. His only friend online was QHZ. Han-sen used to be very interested in fighting QHZ, but he started to feel bored at this point. The fitness level of QHZ was around 40. Even if he had grown as well, it was hard for him to reach Han-sen's level. Kyan Hejin was talking to a middle-aged man at this point. The man was named Lu Bin, a prominent figure in Ares Martial Hall and even the entire martial hall industry. Although Lu Bin was just an evolver, he had great talent in leg skills. Killer kicks invented by him was masterful, and had been designated as one of the routine skills in the Alliance military. The reason the leg skills were impressive was that Lu Bin himself was a veteran who had been through a lot of combats against Shura and suffered numerous injuries. The killer kicks was a set of leg skills refined in blood and fire. After retiring, Lu Bin was hired by Ares Martial Hall as an instructor to teach leg skills, since killer kicks was one of the top leg skills for unevolved persons. However, because most students had never been through life and death situations like Lu Bin, it was very hard for them to understand the essence of killer kicks. Han-sen controlled his strength at the same level as Kyan Hejin, but he still felt awkward when fighting the guy. It was not because Han Sen had lowered his power. With Han Sen's ability to control his own body, he could use his strength well no matter which level his strength was. However, fighting Kian Hejin like this made Han Sen feel awkward. Although he had lowered his fitness level, Han Sen still had his judgment. In Han Sen's eyes, Kian Hejin had too many weaknesses, which made Han Sen lose the desire to win. Even if he lowered his strengths, Han Sen could still see too many opportunities to beat his opponent. It was simply too easy to win. Han Sen could not reduce his judgment, so a fight like this made him feel bored. His fitness was too much greater than yours. Haven't you noticed that he had intentionally suppressed his strength to fight you? That is impossible. Kian Hejin suddenly paused. Reflecting on what had happened just now, he felt like what Lu Bin said did make sense. Otherwise, he would not have that kind of pressure. I'll show you. Lu Bin did not explain anymore but sent Han Sen an invite. In fact, after watching the fight between Han Sen and Kian Hejin, Lu Bin felt an urge to fight. In order to kill someone, you must be determined. With that kind of determination, the murderous intent would be natural. If you tried to hide your intention to kill, your determination must be hindered. And if you did not have the determination, your moves would not be as swift. Although he was very swift, he did not leak any intention to kill. That kind of ability was impressive. Even Lu Bin, who had been through a million fights, had only seen that kind quality in two persons. One of the two was himself, and the other was a Shira fighter who was black-horned. Although the Shira was only a black-horned fighter, that was the worst fight Lu Bin had ever been through. In the end, although Lu Bin was able to survive, he suffered too bad an injury to keep serving, which was why he left his favorite place, the military. Suddenly seeing someone else with the same kind of ability, Lu Bin was reminded of the bloody fight and felt an itch. Invited by a stranger, Han Sen did not think that much. Since he would have chosen random match anyway, he simply accepted the invite. Han Sen entered the Colosseum, looked to the opposite direction, and saw his opponent smiling at him. Han Sen couldn't help feeling nervous because he also smelled someone like himself. Friend, which troop were you at? Before the fight started, Lu Bin did not rush to begin, but smiled and asked. He thought Han Sen should also be a veteran. Otherwise it was unlikely he would have this kind of ability. In fact, that was why Lu Bin felt close to Han Sen in the first place. Military secret, Han Sen said calmly. He was not being arrogant, but it was really a military secret. Lu Bin suddenly became very calm and made a side kick as sharp as a blade at Han Sen. He was so fast and fierce that it was nerve-wracking. The scarier part was that the kick was so sudden that no one saw it coming. That's what killer kicks looked like. Many students who had been instructed by Lu Bin could not help but doubt whether they had learned the skills correctly after watching Lu Bin do it. A soldier on warship suddenly raised his arm to block Lu Bin's kick. Although he took 2 steps back, he only lost 2 points in health. Quite an opponent. He was able to block Lu Bin's kick in time. I wonder who he is. Lu Bin's comrades all felt unexpected. However, no one could answer this question. Even Kian Hejin did not know a soldier on warship was. Han Sen also felt very excited. He did not expect the stranger who sent him an invite was an expert killer with excellent leg skills. Even Han Sen felt it was hard to predict Lu Bin's kicks in the beginning, which was why he was having a hard time defending himself. When fighting someone like this, there was only one way to win. May the brave one live. Boom. Han Sen no longer stepped back, but made a kick himself, his leg hitting Lu Bin's and making a loud sound. Lu Bin's leg skills were practical, which meant the skills not that unusual. Having learned Panorama, which was an encyclopedia of all kinds of commonly seen skills, Han Sen felt it was easy to mimic Lu Bin's killer kicks. In fact, many people could easily imitate the skills, but the true difficulty was how to use it well. Depending on one's capability and mentality, the same leg skills were different when used by different people. It was especially true when it came to these kicks that were designed for life and death battles. This is it. Hiding back is not a soldier's way. Lu Bin yelled in excitement, his legs kicking again as swiftly as wind. Han Sen was also extremely excited. Killer kicks against killer kicks. Although only 2 persons were fighting, the audience felt there were 2 troops present, making them thrilled and terrified at the same time. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.